Later during the week, there is a possibility that a severe weather outbreak could occur in the midsection of the country, and we also have the potential of a nor'easter developing later during the weekend. Now, taking a look at the latest depiction of the GFS model, we do see that there's a scattered area of thunder showers throughout the midsection of the country. However, there isn't a lot of instability for this trough to work with, so none of these thunderstorms will necessarily be severe. There could be that isolated severe thunderstorm that develops somewhere in northern Missouri where the instability is at its highest, but outside of that, the severe weather threat should be limited with this trough, and that's expected to continue over the next several days because there just isn't a lot of cold air behind this trough for it to create enough instability and lift over the midsection of the country. But continuing to move forward, we're going to see the ridging weaken along the eastern half of the United States, and that will allow the trough to move eastward as well rather quickly, at least quicker than its current movement right now, and it should bring a large area of scattered rain showers. Don't rule out the possibility of maybe flash flooding associated with one of these thunder showers because, of course, right now this storm system is moving at a very slow pace. The steering flow is very weak over the midsection of the country right now thanks to a blocking ridge, but eventually this ridge is expected to weaken and this trough should eventually move eastward. Now, this isn't the same trough that I'm talking to you guys about that's gonna bring severe weather to the midsection of the country or a nor'easter later this weekend, because it's gonna be associated with this next trough right behind this current trough we're taking a look at, and I'll show you guys that right now. But you see that this current trough moves eastward, brings rain showers around the mid-Atlantic states by the Tuesday, the Wednesday timeframe, so watch out for that, as it definitely won't be one of those days where you want to be outside because the rain could potentially be heavy at times, but not necessarily heavy to a point where we're going to see necessarily severe weather out of this. But moving forward beyond this point, we have another trough that's expected to come off the Pacific Northwest coast, more so in the Canadian region rather than the United States, and there will be a decent amount of cold air behind it to potentially induce a severe weather threat later during the week. I'll say by the Thursday to Friday timeframe. Moving forward with the forecast, we see the GFS model does bring a pretty large area of thunderstorms extending as far north as North Dakota and as far south as Texas right around the early Thursday timeframe. And moving forward beyond that point, we see the cold air continue to move further southward as the northwesterly flow associated with this low and this ridge is going to bring this cooler air mass further southward and create potentially a severe weather outbreak later during the week. Now, it's still uncertain really how severe or how significant this severe weather threat will be because, of course, we're still going to need to determine how much cold air will exactly be behind this trough, as well as the amount of ridging that's going to be ahead of it, because if this ridge ends up being a little bit stronger and the southerly winds end up being a little bit stronger, then of course that would bring a little bit more moisture, more of that convective energy associated with a warmer air mass for a higher to enhance the possibility of severe weather in the midsection of the country. So we're going to need to pay close attention to those factors. However, I will say that it likely won't necessarily be an extreme severe weather outbreak. But there could definitely be that possibility of maybe a moderate to minimal chance of severe weather as we approach the late week. And moving forward beyond this point, we do see that thunderstorms continue throughout the Great Lakes, even extending as far south as Kansas and Oklahoma by the Friday timeframe. And we do see a pretty large area of rain showers linger around the Midwest and now moving into the Ohio River Valley. Don't rule out the possibility of experiencing heavy rainfall from this storm system as it moves eastward, because while the instability might not necessarily be strong enough to create an extreme severe weather outbreak, it certainly could be enough to potentially cause concerns when it comes to flooding. So you want to still be aware of this if you're in the midsection of the country. And the instability is expected to increase as the storm continues to head further eastward. And this is where I'm going to shift my focus towards the nor'easter that's expected to develop with this trough because the computer models are now having a growing consensus that there's going to be just enough cold air behind this trough for a nor'easter to potentially develop by the weekend time frame, and we do see the rain becomes heavier, the rain becomes a lot more consolidated, and we do see another trough that's bringing slow to some portions of Canada move closer to this trough, as this trough sort of lingers around a little bit, and it lingers around long enough to feel the effects associated with the cold air just to the northwest of it, to the point where we do see a small nor'easter develop by the late weekend into early next week. While this nor'easter won't necessarily be very strong, it seems like the cool air mass is going to be well to the north of the United States-Canadian border, which definitely will inhibit the possibility this will at least be a powerful nor'easter, because the cold air is way too far north to bring that instability and enough lift to the northeast. But we still could see an enhanced risk of heavier rain showers associated with a stronger low pressure system in New England, as we typically don't see nor'easters this late into the year, into the May timeframe, simply because the instability overall, or at least baroclinic instability, reduces during this time of the year when, of course, we approach summer. The jet stream moves a lot further northward because we receive more short-wave radiation from the sun, which overall raises the temperature all throughout the northern hemisphere and forces the very cool air mass closer to the polar regions, and it's way too far north to create enough instability for a low pressure to deepen as a result of baroclinic influences for a nor'easter to develop. Typically during this time of the year and later, the more powerful storms that impact the northeast would be tropical cyclones such as a hurricane or a tropical storm, but in this scenario we could potentially see a nor'easter, since there could be just enough cold air that'll move towards northeast and bring enhanced rain showers. Now, like I said, right now the computer models are agreeing that this necessarily won't be major, but there's still a lot of time to really iron out the forecast. The timing of when this slew of cold air, when it comes to northeast, will be key. If this comes a little bit quicker and interacts with this low a little bit more, then of course we'd see a much more powerful storm that would not only bring heavy rain but potentially gusty winds all throughout the northeast. But if this cooler air mass doesn't dip as far south or is a little bit slower in moving to the northeast by the time this trough is in the northeast, and of course we'd see less instability and definitely a less likely chance of full on nor'easter develop. So I'll keep you guys updated over the next several days. Just be aware of that possibility as we approach next weekend, because of course I know I know we're approaching the summer at this point. Many people want to do summer activities outdoors after a very long winter for much of the northeast. Even though it didn't have much snow, it was still very cold. I'm sure a lot of you guys want to go outside, but you might want to make second plans if this nor'easter actually comes to fruition, because this could bring heavy rain all through many areas of the northeast. But I'll keep you guys updated over the next several days. But what gives me more confidence that this nor'easter won't necessarily be powerful is that the European model is pretty confident as well that this nor'easter won't be very powerful. I'll show you guys that right now. The European model is mostly forecasting much of the same things as the GFS model, which certainly raises the certainty of the forecast associated regarding the severe weather outbreak that's expected to occur later during the week, as well as the nor'easter moving forward. With the forecast, of course, expect rain showers all throughout the mid-Atlantic associated with this trough that will finally break free as the ridging definitely weakens in the eastern half of the country, and we could see a slew of thunderstorms move into the Midwest by Thursday to Friday timeframe. Could potentially be severe depending on how much cold air is behind this trough, but I don't expect it necessarily to be major. But just watch out for that possibility of damaging winds and large hail and beginning to move forward. The European model is also showing a very similar forecast regarding this nor'easter. Just brings the trough a little bit further eastward and southward, which would bring more rain to the northeast, but certainly not necessarily a very powerful nor'easter, as this dip in the jet stream is a little bit further northward. While it moves faster, it doesn't dip as far south, so we see a weaker nor'easter as a result, and the GFS model is expecting a stronger nor'easter since this dip in the jet stream will be a little bit more significant, even though it's a little slower. So the timing and the jet stream dip will be key, and I'll keep you guys updated over the next several days regarding any changes with the forecasted position of this jet stream dip. Now, take a look at the forecasted convective available potential energy levels over next week to really show you guys when you should expect the worst of the severe weather. So continuing to move forward, we're going to see energy levels somewhat elevated over the next few days before we'll eventually see the convective available potential energy move a little bit further northward into the Midwest by the late week. It won't necessarily we won't necessarily see energy levels that are very high, approaching right around 2,000 joules per kilogram, which is high enough to potentially bring those isolated severe thunderstorms, but not necessarily expected to bring a major severe weather outbreak. There's still days for the forecast to iron itself out. I'll keep you guys updated if there's any changes, but the energy levels won't necessarily be very high as we approach the late week, so don't expect a major severe weather threat as of right now. So here's the Storm Prediction Center's outlook when it comes to severe weather over the next 3 days. So this is for today. We do see that there is a slight risk of severe weather right in between the Ohio River Valley as well as the Missouri River Valley. Make sure to watch out for that potential of severe weather. And then for the Tuesday time frame, we see that the severe weather threat is pretty much non-existent. And same goes for day 3, but I wouldn't be surprised that by the Thursday to Friday timeframe, we could see that risk rise in the midsection of the country. I'll keep you guys updated once the Storm Prediction Center updates its severe weather outlook. And of course, another thing you need to be concerned about in certain areas is the forecasted rainfall, especially right just to the west of the Ohio River Valley. You could experience anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of rain over the next 5 days. And remember, some of these clusters of thunderstorms could bring that possibility of flash flooding, as the rain could fall at a very fast clip. So that definitely could induce the possibility of flash flooding, and we could see that possibility into Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina as well. So make sure to pay close attention to that. So here's my forecast when it comes to this, where exactly the next major nor'easter could develop, as well as where exactly the potential severe weather outbreak could develop. It could develop anywhere in this red area, so keep that in mind. And in the northeast, I don't expect necessarily an extreme nor'easter as of right now. That could change depending on how far south its jet stream dips, but I'll keep you guys updated over the next several days, and watch out for that possibility of heavy rain all throughout the midsection as well of the country, as well as areas of the southeast, which could lead to flash flooding. But I thank you guys for watching, and make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather related content.